In 2025, Michael Jordan decided to demolish a fully appraised $6 million lakefront mansion in North Carolina to build something bigger, better, and entirely his own. But this is not an isolated story. It's only a glimpse of how black wealth in North Carolina is turning houses into ultra-luxurious mansions. And we're counting all of it down, starting at number 8. Number 8. J. Cole's Fayetteville house, the most valuable 1,000 square feet in North Carolina. Let's get something out of the way immediately. This is the only entry on this list where the square footage is roughly the size of a decent apartment, and it is also, arguably, the most meaningful piece of real estate on the entire countdown. Because what J. Cole did with a 1,000 square foot ranch house in Fayetteville is something that no amount of marble countertops or 35-foot dome ceilings can really compete with, at least not on the level of Pure Story. The house is at 2014 Forest Hills Drive. Cole's mother lost it when he was young, the kind of thing that quietly shapes a kid's entire relationship with money and stability. And years later, after the albums and the tours and the label deals, he went back and bought it. Not to live in it, not to flip it. He bought it back and turned it into free housing for single mothers with multiple children, letting families stay rent-free for 2 years at a stretch through the Dreamville Foundation, giving them a window of stability to actually get their finances together before the next family moves in. That's the program. That's what the house does now. And here's the part that makes this property genuinely one of a kind. The address appears on the cover of Cole's Pacific house. This modest brick ranch in a Fayetteville neighborhood is simultaneously a piece of music history, an active philanthropic operation, and a pilgrimage destination for fans who show up just to stand in front of it and take a picture. The house got vandalized in 2018, which tells you how visible it had become, and Cole kept it going anyway. There are properties on this list worth 10, 20, 30 times what this house is worth on paper. None of them are doing anything remotely this interesting with the space. Most luxury real estate is about what you can keep out: the gates, the walls, the security cameras. Cole took a house and pointed it in the complete opposite direction, at the community around it rather than away from it. In a countdown full of compounds and penthouses and lakefront estates, that's the detail that sticks. Number 7. The Newton Ball Penthouse. 2 superstars, 1 very good story. If the J. Cole entry was about what you do with a house beyond its square footage, this one is about something a little more fun. Specifically, what happens when one of the most personality-driven quarterbacks in NFL history buys a penthouse, puts a full-size vending machine with his own face on it inside, and then eventually hands the keys to a 19-year-old basketball star. The address is the Trust Building in Uptown Charlotte, 5th floor. Cam Newton bought the 3,335 square foot unit in 2012 for $1.6 million, back when he was the reigning NFL MVP, and the Panthers felt like they were on the edge of something real. And the way he fitted it out tells you everything you need to know about the Cam Newton era: industrial chic aesthetic, exposed ductwork, concrete ceilings, concrete walls giving it this converted loft energy, and then dropped into the middle of all that raw texture, a 197 square foot walk-in closet. Because the man had a wardrobe that required serious infrastructure. Sub-Zero, Bosch, Miele, Wolf appliances in the kitchen. And the Pepsi machine, custom branded with Newton's likeness, just sitting there in the living space like the most maximalist decorating decision in Charlotte penthouse history. It's a very specific vision, and it completely works for who Cam Newton was in that moment, in that city. Then the chapter turns. Newton moves on, and the unit eventually lands with LaMelo Ball, which is either the most natural succession in Charlotte sports history or the universe's way of keeping one address perpetually occupied by the most entertaining personality in the building. Ball brings his own version of the superstar lifestyle to the same concrete walls and floor-to-ceiling windows, the same 315 square foot private terrace looking out over the city. The unit was listed as high as $3.2 million during Newton's tenure and settled around $2.6 million by the time Ball took it over, a number that reflects both the uptown Charlotte market's stability and the consistent demand for the Trust's boutique setup, which only has 7 residences in the entire building. That exclusivity is the real asset. When your building has 7 units, you don't have neighbors. You have a very short, very carefully curated list of people who live near you. 2 chapters, 1 address, and a vending machine that absolutely deserved its own moment in this script. Number 6. Chris Paul's Lewisville estate, quiet luxury in the Winston-Salem Hills. We're now deep into this list of Black-owned NC mansions, and this is where the architecture starts getting genuinely impressive in the traditional sense. Because Chris Paul's $3.7 million estate in Lewisville, North Carolina is exactly what quiet luxury looks like when someone who's thought carefully about how they want to live builds a home around that answer. Lewisville sits just outside Winston-Salem, which is already a step removed from the pace of Charlotte, and that geographic choice is deliberate. This is not a home designed for visibility or for impressing anyone who happens to drive past. It's 8,800 square feet built around the idea of living well in private, and the details inside reflect that clearly. The architectural centerpiece is a double-sided marble fireplace that sits between the formal living room and the dining room, anchoring both spaces simultaneously. It's the kind of feature that sounds understated until you're standing in front of it, and then you understand exactly what it's doing for the whole floor plan. Right next to it is a custom-built 750-bottle, temperature-controlled wine case. Not a wine cellar hidden in the basement, but a visible designed element of the main floor that functions as both storage and a visual divider within the open layout. For someone who takes wine seriously, that's a very specific kind of architectural flex. The kitchen is built for actual cooking, not just staging, stainless steel countertops, a marble-top center island, a 48-inch Sub-Zero refrigerator, 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and one of the more thoughtful guest suite arrangements on this list. Each of the 4 ensuite bedrooms comes with its own private terrace. Not a shared outdoor space, not a common balcony. Individual terraces off each room so that whoever is staying with you has their own outdoor access without crossing through anyone else's space. That's a detail that reflects real consideration for how people actually experience a home, not just how it photographs. The primary suite has a covered terrace, a dual vanity bathroom, and a marble-walled glass-enclosed shower that tips firmly into spa territory. This is a home that someone lived in thoughtfully before they built it, which, for an 8,800 square foot estate at $3.7 million, makes it one of the stronger value propositions on this entire list. Number 5. DaBaby's Troutman Fortress, 9 acres, concrete walls, and guard towers. Okay, so if Chris Paul's Lewisville estate is the definition of quiet luxury, DaBaby's compound in Troutman, North Carolina is the definition of something else entirely. And I mean that as a genuine compliment to the vision behind it, because this property is doing something architecturally that almost nothing else on this list is doing. Jonathan Kirk, DaBaby, built a fortress. Not metaphorically, literally. The 9-acre compound in Troutman, a town of about 2,700 people in Iredell County, is enclosed by a massive concrete perimeter wall with 2-story guard towers at the entrance. 2-story guard towers. In a town of 2,700 people, the contrast between the rural surroundings and the security infrastructure of this property is so stark that it reads almost like an architectural statement about the relationship between public visibility and private life, which, for a top-tier hip-hop artist, is a genuinely real tension to design around. Behind the walls, the 11,241 square foot mansion, built in 2018, goes in a completely different aesthetic direction. Modern Tuscan, natural stone exterior, arched entry leading into a motor court servicing a 4-car garage. The interior runs 5 bedrooms and 9 bathrooms, with a private movie theater and a basketball court doing their expected duty as the entertainment anchors. The wooded 9 acres surrounding the structure act as a natural buffer zone that works alongside the man-made perimeter. So there are effectively 2 layers of privacy. The trees first, then the wall, then the towers. Stadium lighting in the backyard extends the security perimeter into the night, which also happens to be genuinely useful if you're filming content or just want to use the outdoor space at 2 in the morning without any visibility issues from the surrounding land. The annual property tax runs about $25,000, with homeowners insurance adding another $12,000 on top, which for a property of this specification in Iredell County reflects how seriously the market is taking its valuation. The whole thing is a very deliberate design philosophy: absolute control over who gets in, absolute comfort for whoever's inside. In a rural North Carolina town where that kind of infrastructure has basically never existed before, it lands like something from a different world, which is probably exactly the point. Number 4. Janice Bryant Howroyd, the billionaire North Carolina forgot to tell you about. Here's a question worth sitting with for a second. What does a billion-dollar empire actually look like when the person who built it has no interest in being the most famous person in the room? Janice Bryant Howroyd grew up in Tarboro, North Carolina, a small town that most people outside the state couldn't place on a map. And she went on to become the first black woman in American history to build and own a billion-dollar company. The Antawn Group, her staffing and workforce solutions firm, has placed workers in jobs across the globe and generated over $1 billion in revenue. That's not a regional success story. That's a historic one, by any measure. Her real estate footprint in North Carolina reflects the same philosophy that built the company: strategic, community-rooted, and operating at a scale that doesn't need to announce itself. She and her family hold more than a dozen properties across the state, spanning the Raleigh-Durham corridor and including both commercial buildings and residential holdings. These aren't trophy assets or status purchases. They're functional infrastructure, the physical backbone of an operation that has created jobs and economic stability for communities across the state. What makes the Howroyd portfolio genuinely next level in this context is that it reframes what luxury real estate is even for. Every other entry on this list is, at its core, a personal residence, a space built around the comfort and lifestyle of the individual who owns it. Howroyd's North Carolina holdings are built around something larger than that. Her significant financial support for North Carolina A&T State University and North Carolina Wesleyan University means that her investment in the state runs straight through its educational institutions, not just its property market. She lives primarily in Las Vegas now, but Tarboro is still the origin point, the place the whole thing grew out of. And her continued presence in the North Carolina real estate market is a form of commitment to that origin that most people who build that level of wealth don't bother to maintain. Most people move up and move on. Howroyd moved up and kept the roots in the ground. The flashiest property on this list costs more. None of them carry more economic weight. Number 3. Antawn Jamison's Waxhaw estate, 30 acres, a 35-foot dome, and a $14 million ask. Now we're in genuinely different territory, because Antawn Jamison's estate in Waxhaw isn't just a large, well-appointed home. It is, by acreage, the largest single-owner celebrity residential lot in the immediate Charlotte vicinity. And the architecture inside is doing things that very few residential buildings in North Carolina are doing at any price point. Let's start with the dome, because it's the detail that separates this property from everything else in the Union County market. The central living area on the ground floor sits under a dome that reaches 35 feet at its peak, with general ceiling heights throughout the 12,624 square foot residence running above 30 feet. 30 feet. For context, a standard residential ceiling is 9 feet. A generous, upscale ceiling is maybe 12. 30 feet is the ceiling height of a church nave or a boutique hotel lobby. And Jamison built it into a private home in Waxhaw, which is its own kind of architectural audacity. The style is Palm Beach Mediterranean, stucco, limestone, tile roofing, which creates this interesting visual tension with the rural suburban landscape of Union County, like someone transplanted a South Florida estate into the Carolina Piedmont. A grand staircase anchors the interior alongside a wall of windows overlooking the outdoor pool and hot tub. And the lower level has a theater, sauna, full gym, and bar that collectively turn the basement into a separate entertainment facility. The athletic infrastructure is serious. A regulation, lighted basketball court that's been sized to convert to tennis or pickleball, housed alongside an 8-car garage with a basketball detail worked into the pavement. A small touch that's easy to miss, but very deliberate. 6 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms, 10 total, including 7 full baths and 3 half baths, all with bespoke finishes. Here's where the real estate story gets interesting. The estate was originally listed at $14 million for the full 30 acres in May 2025, and recently Jamison pulled a strategic audible, offering the 5-acre portion containing the mansion separately at $9 million, holding the remaining 25 acres for potential development. That's not a price reduction, that's a market read. In Waxhaw, where land value is increasingly decoupled from what's built on it, 25 acres of undeveloped real estate adjacent to an already established luxury compound might be worth more to the right developer than any single buyer could offer for the whole package. It's a chess move, not a retreat. Number 2. Michael Jordan's Trust Penthouse, the urban seat of power in uptown Charlotte. Before we get to the crown jewel of this entire list, we need to talk about the other Michael Jordan property on this countdown, because Jordan is the only person who gets 2 entries, and the penthouse at the Trust in uptown Charlotte is not a supporting act. It's a completely distinct expression of what it looks like when you build a life around controlling every environment you inhabit. Jordan owns the entire 7th floor of the Trust. Not a unit on the 7th floor, the 7th floor. The building itself only has 7 residences total, which means the ratio of amenity to occupant is unlike anything in a conventional luxury high-rise. You're not sharing a rooftop terrace with 200 other units. You're sharing it with 6. The unit runs 7,000 square feet, accessed via private elevator directly from street level. No lobby congregation, no hallway encounters, no shared elevator banks. You arrive in your home. The design language inside leans into natural materials: Italian marble, bamboo flooring, Macassar ebony cabinetry, laid out in an open plan that's anchored by floor-to-ceiling windows framing the Charlotte skyline. There's a built-in humidor in the residence, which for Jordan is less of an amenity and more of a standard feature at this point, appearing across multiple properties in his portfolio. The building's resident wine vault, rooftop social terrace with outdoor kitchen, and concierge service round out an infrastructure designed specifically for someone who doesn't want to think about logistics. They just want them handled. What this penthouse represents in the broader Jordan real estate picture is the urban counterweight to his lake house retreats. The Lake Norman property is where you decompress, where you fish and play golf and exist outside the orbit of the business. The Trust penthouse is where you run things from, the seat of his Charlotte operation, centrally located in uptown, with the skyline laid out in front of you and a private elevator ensuring that nobody gets in or out without your knowledge. For a man who just completed a $3 billion sale of his majority Hornets stake, that kind of urban command center isn't a luxury. It's a professional necessity. And yet, and this is the thing, it's still only number 2 on this list. Because what Jordan is doing right now on the shores of Lake Norman is on an entirely different level of ambition. Number 1. Michael Jordan's Lake. Norman rebuild. A billionaire erases $6 million to start over. Here is the most telling detail about where Michael Jordan's wealth sits right now. In early 2025, he looked at a fully appraised $6.1 million lakefront estate on one of North Carolina's most coveted waterways. A home with 6 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms on a prime peninsula lot overlooking the 7th hole of a prestigious golf course. And he knocked it down. Not renovated or expanded, but fully demolished from the foundation up to make room for something he actually wants to build. The original property was a 12,310 square foot home he purchased back in 2013 for $2.8 million, situated in the peninsula neighborhood of Cornelius on Lake Norman. By any conventional measure, it was an extraordinary piece of real estate. Waterfront, golf adjacent, panoramic lake views, private pier access, the kind of property that would be the definitive highlight of almost anyone else's portfolio. Jordan lived there for over a decade, then decided the land itself was the asset, not the structure on it. The rebuild, being managed by Kingswood Homes, reflects a design philosophy that Jordan has been consistent about across his properties. Clean lines, high-performance materials, indoor-outdoor integration that makes the boundary between the building and the landscape feel intentional rather than incidental. The lake house ethos he's maintained in North Carolina, calmer, more private, more contemplative than his Illinois or Florida compounds, is reportedly being preserved in the new build's approach. But the amenities being projected into the new structure are distinctly Jordan-scaled. A regulation basketball court, a professional-grade gym with the Jumpman branding that appears across his properties, a private pier with updated lake access, cigar-friendly media rooms with built-in humidors and state-of-the-art ventilation, and landscaping designed to use the peninsula's natural topography as an additional security and privacy layer. The context that makes this move make complete sense. Jordan sold his majority stake in the Charlotte Hornets for $3 billion in 2023. He is no longer an athlete-turned-businessman managing a franchise. He is a billionaire, full stop. In the post-exit phase of wealth where the question isn't how do I grow this? It's how do I build something that reflects exactly who I am and exactly how I want to live, with no compromises made for budget. Demolishing a $6 million home to build a bespoke custom estate from scratch on a lakefront peninsula is not an irrational decision when you're operating at that level of capital. It's actually the most logical one available. Every other person on this list, at every level of wealth and ambition, bought into an existing structure or built within inherited constraints. Jordan looked at a prime piece of North Carolina real estate, decided the bones weren't good enough, and started over. That's not just the top of this list. That's a completely different relationship with what's possible. And there you have it. From J. Cole's 1,000-square-foot act of community investment to Michael Jordan scrapping a $6 million mansion because he had a better idea. What North Carolina's black wealth is doing right now doesn't fit into a single category or a single definition of luxury. Which one of these mansions impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments. And for more such interesting peeks into how black wealth is prospering across America, take a look at Black Status.